I'm Cynthia McKinney, the Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District of Georgia, which is Stone Mountain, Georgia, that same Stone Mountain that Dr. King made famous in his I Have a Dream speech. And things have changed in Stone Mountain, but not quite enough. Basically, the most important thing to take to the people is the truth. And a member of the Atlanta City Council called me right after my legendary remarks about what did the administration know and when did they know it about September 11th. He called me up and he said, Cynthia, you know, once you become an elected official, you get the keys to the file cabinet. And they will even allow you to look inside the file cabinet. But Cynthia, you're not supposed to tell what's in it. Well, I told what was in it because I thought it was the right of the American people to know. That's what investigative journalists do. That's what whistleblowers do. And that's what members of Congress ought to do. Because we are charged with stewardship over the people's money and the people's values. And the way the money is spent and the policies that are promoted ought to reflect the people's values. And when they deviate, it's up to us to blow the whistle, to sound the alarm, and to tell the truth. We're very deviated. It is amazing to me that the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, can come before the House Armed Services Committee, on which I serve, and basically admit, yes, we can't find $2.3 trillion, but America can afford it. And by the way, we need to spend more money on defense. And oh, oops, we also changed U.S. military policy so that we could seize foreign capitals and occupy them. Now, that was the announcement that Donald Rumsfeld made before the United States Congress without any discussion by the American people about what the implications were of, one, having lost so much money. And now an accountant tells me that while they tell us that the money was lost, that it really is that the money went someplace and they don't want to tell us where it went. So we've got that situation, and then we've got a vast change in the U.S. military posture, and that will allow our military to go into foreign lands, seize their capitals, and then occupy them without one whit of national discussion about what that means. I voted no against all of the preliminary steps that were brought before the Congress to sanction the war against Iraq. But then the president in March of 2003 went into Iraq, and we learned what Donald Rumsfeld meant when he said seize foreign capitals and occupy them. You see, the Pentagon continues to tell the auditors, the nation's comptroller, the General Accountability Office, and the United States Congress and the American people that the reason they can't balance their books is because, well, you know, their computers don't talk to each other. And so, therefore, until they can get their computers to talk to each other, they won't be able to tell us where all of this money goes. Well, darn it. So I asked the question, well, who's got the contracts and how much has been spent? The comptroller for the Pentagon told us that $20 billion has been spent trying to get the computers to talk to each other. That is captured on tape, and they still don't talk to each other. It's a travesty. It's criminal. It's corrupt. And I just don't understand. It continues to amaze me why the American people allow this to continue to happen year after year, budget after budget, without a tremendous outcry. Not only are we far away from, we've deviated from our values in the area of military spending and the treatment of the Pentagon and how these people come to us and tell us these outlandish, outrageous stories, but we're also very far from American values in terms of the president's recent admission about the presence, the existence of secret prisons. Secret prisons where upwards of 14,000 people around the world are being held without access to an attorney, without access to even know why they're being held. Probably, in some cases, without even access to know where they are. Secret renditions where the United States government is kidnapping people, kidnapping them. Torture. Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib, the photos from Abu Ghraib are just a mere indication of how far we've sunk in our own respect for human life, human dignity, in respect for our own laws, our own values, our own traditions, international law, that we would sanction the kind of torture that took place in Abu Ghraib. Guantanamo. Guantanamo shouldn't even belong to the United States. And yet we've got torture and illegal detainment of people going on. And the idea was to do it on Cuban soil, which is an extension, unfortunately, of American soil for that particular military base, because then U.S. law wouldn't apply. Well, thank goodness, even as partisan as the Supreme Court has become, even the partisan Republican Supreme Court has said enough is enough. I make it a point to not participate in the so-called top secret classified briefings, which basically are a dog and pony show, which are an insult to the intelligence of most members of Congress. However, I don't go there because I know that if I am told something, I want to tell it if the American people deserve to know about it. I'm not going to keep secrets of things that betray the values of our country. And so I've been to enough of those classified briefings, first of all, to know that they don't tell you anything new. You can read about it in Christian Science Monitor, New York Times, or any investigative journalist will have already written the stories. And they aren't actually going to tell you the truth. And so those classified briefings, in my estimation, are a farce and a joke, and just another way to keep you bound into as a boa constrictor binds its prey. The members of Congress and people who are privy to these classified briefings are bound in such a way that they are not free to tell the truth to the American people. And obviously, when you have the kind of administration that we have today that can't be trusted, then we have to be able to blow the whistle and tell the American people the truth.
Now at that same hearing, you asked for the second time for a briefing on some of the war games that were taking place on 9/11. Now, you were really the first person to talk about that within government. It was brought up briefly in the 9/11 Commission hearings. What did you learn?
We learned that they lie. We know they lie, but we had the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Richard Myers, there, who said that actually the war games improved the ability of the American defenses to respond to the attacks on September 11th. But now, of course, we know with the release of the FAA tapes that there was just mass confusion. And We also learned that there were several war games going on, so that now I believe that it wasn't 1 or 2 or 3, but it was more like 4, 5, or 6 war games that were going on simultaneous on September 11th and coinciding with the actual attacks. Why would they say things that aren't true? Because they're so accustomed to being able to get away with saying things to the American people that aren't true. And they're also not accustomed to members of Congress actually challenging them. It's one thing to ask on the first iteration a question and get the answer, but it's another thing to be able to go 2 or 3 layers deep in their response. For example, we had, this was back when I was on the International Relations Committee, we had a gentleman come in